Okay, so this is part 2. I'm going to pick up on how you write this up. So you will discuss assumptions. I don't think it's necessary for you to write in what each specific skewness was for each one. And by the way, I made these numbers up because I didn't just write them down directly from what we saw earlier. And on homework, it would be important to do that, but not necessarily here. However, I do think if you're ever publishing, it's still a very good idea to write what the Levine's test was, the homogeneity of regression of slopes, go on and report that p-value, and also show the correlation between the covariate and the dependent variable. I think that's important to note. All right, so first what you're going to do is you're going to talk about assumptions, then discuss the one-way ANOVA. Just what were those results when you did the ANOVA? Go on and report power and the partial eta squared from that result. You know how to do that from ANOVA. And then you go on and say, just continue on with, like in the next paragraph, results from the ANCOVA where class size was added as the covariate were also still statistically significant. So remember, this number here comes from the effect test, the top line of the effect test, because this is considering education level. This is what it's asking. Is it still significant even when I threw in class size? Yep, you betcha. I'm just looking at this top line, okay? So that's what I report. So I'm going to put 2,26. That 2 degrees of freedom, and the 26 comes from the error, the degrees of freedom error right here, the within groups variance degrees of freedom. And then that's the F, and that's the P that I'm reporting. See, this isn't that hard. And then you can talk about that. Also, you can go on and say class size was also statistically significant here. Like, it's also having an effect. And I can show that in table 5. I'll show you in a minute. You can say Tukey's post hoc showed that when I'm comparing the least squared means, that teachers with doctoral degrees were higher. So I'm reporting this from the least squared means table. And then what I would do, I would go on and find the Cohen's D between those two. You could probably do it with the real means as well. These are just some things to think about. There's, like I keep saying, there is not one right way to do this, and I can't even tell you if I was doing it in ANCOVA, I might even approach it differently. Like, but I would at least show what the adjusted means are. And you know, this isn't really APA. This is just an idea for you. And then, but I might go on and have a table of what the real means were to begin with in the ANOVA as well, just to show the difference of how they were adjusted. So, you know, you could do something with that. Here, I'm basically showing that last effect size table. I'm putting the sum of squares, I'm putting the F. Remember, this second number here comes from the error DF in the analysis of variance table. That's where a lot of people get lost. But otherwise, this is copied straight from that effect size table. Okay, so what does this mean, y'all? What does this mean? When I control for class size, are there still differences? Yes, I can be a little more confident about saying yes, even if everybody had the same class size. And when I keep saying everybody had the same, what this math test does is it considers like the average class size and it puts that into the model. Now, I think it's worth walking through one more example just to see like what another one looks like. I'm not going to walk through the write-up, but I just want to show you maybe one more so you can wrap your mind around this. I'm going to go to ANCOVA practice, and I have different types of high schools. I have charter schools, magnet schools, and regular schools. And let's say I want to compare, hey, what's their final GPA? So let's just pretend like I already go through most of the assumptions. Let's see here. But let me just run very quickly what the ANOVA is. okay? So I'm going to go final GPA by high school and see if there's a difference anyway. And, oops, I don't need to do the Levines. Okay, there's not a difference. There's not a difference in people's GPA among the high schools. But wonder if I consider maybe their pre-GPA, their what's it called? First part of the beginning GPA. What if their beginning GPA is really influencing their final GPA in this model, and we're not really getting to see the true differences here? So let me do a fancy ANCOVA. Well, I am going to test for the slopes, for the interaction, the regression of slopes. And I'm going to go on and put my final GPA here, and my high school, and my beginning GPA is the covariate, and also how these interact. Okay, oops. Okay, there we go. I just want to make sure that interaction term is not statistically significant. Looks like they could be interacting there. Oh, but they're not. They're not in a way that I need to be concerned about. So I'm all right there. I'm okay. So I'm going to proceed. And this time when I proceed, I'm going to examine my fit model. I'm going to put my final GPA up here. That's my dependent variable. I'm going to put my group in here as well as my covariate. I'm going to equalize everybody as if they all have the same GPA. I click run. F to see what it was before, but I know it wasn't significant. So down here, analysis of variance. It's significant now. Ooh, I want to study this further. Somehow there's something significant and interesting going on now. All right, to make this significant. But when I look down here, look at what it is. High school. Are there differences in high school when I control for beginning GPA? No, there are still no differences. What I can do is I can look up here, the least squares, and actually think logically about this. These are what the mean scores were before. After they were adjusted, they're even more similar. Okay, so there's definitely not any difference here. Even where things were equalized, nothing special's going on. But you know what is special? This is what's special. GPA is definitely influencing, having an effect, or there is a relationship, was the best way to say it, with beginning GPA and end GPA. If I look at this as a regression model, because you know they're really the same thing, they're just in different personality types, just different little math going on here. GPA here is indeed a statistically significant predictor variable, but not really charter schools or magnet schools and what they're being compared against. Okay, so that is the nature of ANCOVA. If you are doing this for your dissertation, I would expect we have a conversation about it. I'll look over how you approach writing it up. I don't like to push that there's one right way to do this, but I do want you to understand what you're looking at. You all have a fantastic day.